Samantha Jones, the self-proclaimed trisexual, meaning she'll try anything once. And you know, for 6 seasons on Sex and the City, she pretty much did. That's the character that made Kim Cattrall an international star. All right, here's Kimmy's story. Born in Liverpool, England, moved to British Columbia at 3 months old. At the tender age of 11, she went back across the pond to study at London's Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. Back to Canada, where Kim finished high school, then over to New York to study at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. After graduating, she had a few television gigs, and then she landed a role in 1980 in the Jack Lemmon film Tribute. Then she was in Police Academy, Mannequin, one of John Carpenter's underrated classics, Big Trouble in Little China.
Nice! This guy's 12 feet tall!
And eventually, the masterpiece, HBO's Sex and the City.
Bottoms up.
That program changed the way women were portrayed like never before. They were strong, sexual, independent, and for a change, it was the men that were being objectified.
They practically chased me with torches like I was Frankenstein.
Sex and the City won 7 Emmy Awards, and the final episode was one of the most watched series finales ever. From there, Kim wrote 3 books, did theatre in London. She even played Daniel Radcliffe's mom in the TV movie My Boy Jack. But now she's back as Samantha for Sex and the City, the movie. By the way, one of the most anticipated films of the year.
Jesus, honey, wax much? What? I didn't know I was going to be wearing a bathing suit. What are you talking about? I forgot to wax. I've had other things on my mind.
I could be on death row and not have that situation.
Well, Samantha, when you're married, you have a different set of priorities.
Oh, honey, don't blame marriage. This one's married and she's not growing a national forest.
Everybody say hello to Kim Cattrall. Welcome to the show. I mean, obviously Sex and the City is this highly anticipated movie, and I wondered just psychologically how different it would have been for you, because when you started Sex and the City, the TV show, you were just making a show and it built its own momentum. But walking into a project where the momentum is already there, is that a different experience?
Well, something incredible happened in the 4 years that we were no longer making the series, which was quite extraordinary, because when we left 4 years ago, we were a half-hour show on cable that was successful critically, and we had a very strong fan base. But in the 4 years, the show went all over the world. It went on demand, really. Mm-hmm. So our fan base, instead of diminishing, just multiplied. I just remember the first day of shooting, you know, there was over 300 people on the streets of New York welcoming us back and screaming our names, our characters' names, the directors' names, the costume designers' names. I mean, our fans were very well invested in these 4 women.
Which is different, because usually 300 people in New York yelling at you are just telling you to get your ass out of the way.
That's true. Right? It's true. It's true.
So then when you make the decision to go back and make the film then, you recognize that that's the reality. It's not like you're making this cable show anymore.
No, I mean, I think after about the 4th season, I think we recognized that we had hit a nerve. We were a zeitgeist, so to speak. But a zeitgeist is usually of the moment. Mm-hmm. This seems to have gone on for just about a decade now and changed my life irrevocably, all of us connected to it. But I think it's also changed women's lives, because I think it makes single much more interesting. It's not just a negative connotation because you're not wanted. You know, why don't you have a boyfriend? Why aren't you married? Why aren't you having babies? Well, I'm taking my time.
Yet an enormous part of the dialogue in the series was talking about that very same issue.
And sex.
Yeah, lots of that. Yeah, listen, you've turned this into quite a book career, haven't you, the sex business?
Well, actually, it's quite interesting because the first book I did with my ex-husband, mm-hmm. and I was so known for playing this, you know, sexual predator, and that was...
Not in the NBC Dateline kind of way. Not that kind, there was none of that predator. No one walked in the room. Yeah.
Nothing like that, God knows. No, there was an age limit. But I think playing that character, people were really kind of blurring the lines between me and Samantha. As a matter of fact, people would book me to go on talk shows like this and want me to be Samantha, which I love being her on film, but that's not who I am.
That was the thing of Sex and the City. It kind of felt real to a degree. You were playing women talking, and I wondered if in the film, those characters had to make that 4.5-year jump as well.
Of course they did, because they're 4.5 years older. and not so wiser in some ways. It's just like growing up in life. You take one step forward, you take 2 steps back, you take 4 steps forward, and then you take 1 step back. And these characters have to do the same. And I really have to give Michael Patrick King, our writer, director, producer, credit, because he knows these women even better, I think, than the actresses that are playing them. And 4 years, a lot of things had happened to the 4 of us. So he kind of really interwove these 4 main characters and their storylines. But the common ground was always been about friendship. And Hollywood is very famous for pitting women against each other. This was about women for each other. And also, I think men learned a lot. It was like being a fly on the wall.
What's the one thing you could have taught a man, do you think, that show?
I think the most important thing that I've heard men speak about as far as watching the show is to really see how their actions in a relationship affect their partner. And I think it's made a lot of men more conscious. I mean, I remember one episode where one of the characters was broken up with on a Post-it.
Burger.
Exactly.
Burger.
You watch the show!
No, but here's the thing. That's the episode I saw, but here's the problem.
One episode.
But here's the problem.
I happen to quote.
When I saw that episode and all the conversation after the fact, my first thought was, well, what the hell? What the hell's wrong with the sticky note? That ain't that bad, is it? I'm kidding. I'm kidding,
We have
Kim.
so much to talk about.
Yes, we do, Cattrall. So yeah, I mean, it's cause and effect. I wondered, you were talking about how, that show became what it was and people expected you to be that character. You came into that role as an experienced actor. You had a lot of work. You had done a lot of shows. Was it an adjustment for you to all of a sudden, after all those years of experience, be somebody that was so identifiable?
Well, I was a little bit nervous about the character. When you sign on to do a pilot, it's basically 30 pages and 7 years of your life. And I had just turned 40. And I thought, I don't really think I can pull this off. I don't think I can be this sex maven at this time in my life. Maybe they should, get somebody in their 20s and their 30s. And it was really a friend who called me and said, you're wrong. You can play this part and then some. And then I did a little research and I found out that a man in his 20s equals a woman in her 40s. And I thought, hey, I can get behind that. And also, Darren Star, who created it from Candace Bushnell's book and also her articles in the New York Observer, he said these characters are going to evolve. They're going to be more than you see in these 30 pages.
When you first got into this business, it was just before it had changed. So you had signed to a studio and you did it that way.
Yes. Well, I was the last of a dying breed. It's true. It was Jamie Lee Curtis and myself and Sharon Glass. We were all under contract at Universal Studios. And I remember I was here at Toronto Free and I was making about $250 a week and loving it. And I got signed to this contract and I was going to make $475 a week. I thought I could never make that much money in my life. And then I remember getting my first check, and after they'd taken out the commission for the agent and the business manager and the taxes, I was left with $125 a week. So
you took a pay cut.
I certainly did. I thought, why did I leave Toronto Free Theatre?
And then now you're in this position here. Another episode that we know that is much is made of, and we can't talk too much about the movie because I've been given strict orders by girls who work on this show. If we spoil anything,
absolutely, you're dead.
I'll be killed. Yes. So I'm trying to cleverly walk around the minefield that is the Sex and the City film. But in the TV show was the cancer episode and the big moment of pulling the wig off.
Yes.
That wasn't in the script, from what I understand?
It was that she takes it off, but it was more of a poignant moment. But I'm not a very sentimental actress. I never have been. And I felt that to take it off and take an emotional moment was not very truthful to Samantha. So I took it off and I whirled it around and I threw it out to the audience, which I thought was much more of a celebratory way of her saying, I'm with you, I'm going to beat this. And she did.
What's it like as an actor when you play a role that resonates with a human being on that level? Because that issue with breast cancer, that's different than when you were in whatever movie that you had done in your life.
Right.
You can, no matter how great your performance could be in any of the films in your life, like Police Academy, awesome. But this moment, remember that? That was amazing. What? They like the movie. What?
I did too.
It's a great show.
I did too.
Yeah, but you know that idea where your character, all of a sudden, it's more than just you're the actor playing this role.
Well, I remember specifically a moment I was in Australia and I was on a beach in cut up jeans and a big old hat and glasses, and I had been drinking the night before. And this woman came up to me and she said, I just have to thank you. And I said, for what? She said, I was diagnosed the same time Samantha was, and you got me through my chemo. And those moments have happened continuously. And you know, you get into this profession because you want to tell stories and you love to perform and entertain people. But when someone reaches out on that level and say they were helped by something that you played or a moment that you had on film, on television, in theater, there's just really nothing quite like it.
Is it received the same elsewhere? Like, does each country have its own relationship with these characters?
It seems to. But I think the brilliant thing about this show is that these 4 characters really represent a complete woman. So that's why I think that there is this amazing connection everywhere. And there's also the fashion and the shoes and the bags and the guilty pleasures as well. Shopping, you just can't underestimate shopping.
In my hand, Cattrall, I have 220. We take a break, we're going to come back in rapid fire. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Everything you ever wanted to know. 220 with Kim Cattrall. We'll be right back.